Welcome to Asmiliath Adventures. As you can realize, this is not our normal setup. We are no longer across the country. We are all in person in our new, glorious, professional studio that we have all tirelessly worked on. We have gathered for an in-person game for our 49th, 50th, and 51st episode. It's going to be a nice little trilogy for you all. And I will go around and let the table introduce themselves because it's been quite some time since we have done that. We'll, I guess, do clockwise, starting with you, sir.
Well, I'm the oldest character anyways. Name's Daniel. I play Thor. Barbarian Warlock, but mostly Barbarian. Because that's pretty much what I am. I need to say anything else?
Oh, that's good. Whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Oh, I am half alive, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
I keep track of these things.
Not in my notes.
I am James. I'm playing Valoran, the human noble paladin. And he's now the second longest living character left in the group. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how long that record holds.
Rob, I'm playing Decker. The third longest. He's a fighter, mostly rogue, and a little dash of cleric, and probably the best looking character in the game. And transferring to our best looking in life character.
I'm the shitstorm of the group. I'm Seth. I play Clake Deeploam the Third, Aegis Gnome from the Shovelin's Chosen. Long family history of helping people out, kind of, for the most part. And I am technically, the newest of group of characters.
Yeah, of the character,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna let this one die, so we're good. Good.
Sure.
Hey, it's
He's
only
incredibly tanky.
Shadowfae?
I only go down like once or twice in a fight. So
The normal amount. It averages out.
yeah.
Everybody else has gone down at least 3 times. Total.
But for those of you who don't know, we have been playing together as a group for almost 2 years now, about a year and a half to be more precise, and we have recorded over 200 hours of Asmiliath adventures, a lot of that being not released to the public because it was very cringy at the beginning and we'll never go there again. But now, after many, many months of very dutiful D&D playing, 2 of us have come from Texas, 1 of us has come from the North Carolina South, and we have gathered to play D&D in person, and it's going to be a hell of a good time. So, sadly, due to some issues that we had with our audio during our recording, I'm going to have to come in here every so often when the screen goes black and white to summarize the events of these episodes, but there will be the clips of the actual play, so that you guys have context for the story going on. But without further ado, here is episode 49 of Asmiliath Adventures. Last time, on Asmiliath Adventures, the Golden Hearts found themselves in quite the pickle in Northwatch Castle. Lord Valoran Athelvane had been persuaded into approaching the castle alone and found himself kidnapped or imprisoned by someone he thought would be a friend. After a daring rescue from the ingenious other members of the Golden Hearts, there was a unfortunate incident with Count Barbet, which left him quite disposed. After dealing with that initial issue, the Goliath clan that Thor had been a part of in his youth reared their ugly head, and they found themselves battling for power or the leadership of that clan, and also a, I guess, holy dwarven relic called the Mother's Hammer that Kuztar, the leader of Thor's previous clan, had wielded. Now Thor wields it after defeating Kuztar in a tremendously violent duel amidst a horrible thunderstorm in the courtyard of Northwatch Castle. After the party collect themselves, recover from some exhaustion and hurt feelings from being kidnapped, they return back to their caravan on the road, where they meet a familiar and friendly face, a dwarven woman with red hair that's usually braided off to one side. Her name is Sira, and she was a guide that the party had used or interacted with traversing the dwarven highways some time ago. She has seeked out the party at this current moment, both for their help and their assistance and some equipment that they own to go back into the highways, solve some issues that have been building up there, and to avenge a long-lost company member, Adam, one of the quartermaster for the Golden Hearts quite some time ago. We had a little conversation outside of the recording of the Golden Hearts coming back and conversing with Sierra. The majority of that basically covered why she was here and what the plan was. I'm sure that will be retreaded in various ways, so I won't cover that too in depth. But between Northwatch Castle and where we pick up today, the party split for a moment. Clay and Thor splitting off to lead this large band of Goliaths back to their homeland, trying to secret them across the countryside of Folk, as Valorant and Decker have a smaller part of the Golden Heart caravan now heading towards Vilstein, while they send an envoy, is probably the correct term to use, to the Queen's Coast, including Decker's sister Danica, to help or attempt to persuade the Queen of Folk to side with Liamus and stave off the ever-encroaching threat of the Pruid Empire. Now, our heroes gather on the road to Vilstein, the easternmost city of Folk that leads down into the Dwarven highways, where they hope to gain more information, to gain some supplies, to go down into the depths and deal with this shadow terror that has taken one of their companions from them. So, Golden Hearts. It is March 27th. We'll say that it's around noon. The sun has kind of reached high in the sky. You guys all met this morning, probably early morning, around 8 or 9, so you've had a few hours to catch up or ask questions about the travels that you all have missed from one side of the party to the other. As you are finishing the last leg to Vilstein, the skyline of the city, the few smoke trails from the houses kind of drifting up into the sky, you're maybe about half an hour away from the gates itself. You are just traversing with a much smaller caravan than you're used to, or a singular cart it is at this point, I imagine. And if there's anything the party wants to discuss or talk about before your arrival at the city gates, now would be the time. Thor, who has just returned to the group after leading his clan to the Serbat Mountains, is questioned by Valorant about how his adventures went during their time apart.
Went well, as far as I know. I left Gorge in charge.
What did you say to them?
I told them to just wait there, and I will be back, and Gorge is in charge until I get back. I also met Darslet, and fine. They raise him, teach him not to be goose. Think everything's okay. Or things with you.
They're not gonna raid Folk anymore, right?
After the party fully come together and while they're still approaching the gates of Vilstein, they begin to discuss the Shadow Terror, which is the ultimate goal of their adventure down into the Dwarven highways. As they are discussing what to do or what the plan might be, Sierra steps in.
Some can only be armed with magic weapons, some armed by sun. Can't be harmed at all, you just have to run.
Sierra, who was part of this conversation, would kind of look between you both and well, my plan wasn't to exactly come to blows with it. We are just keeping it at bay with the light and then finding where the anchor is. That was my plan.
If I recall, the light was not complete proof against this creature. It merely
Didn't seem able to function inside of it.
It was able to grab it.
It found the light distasteful, but
Like you described. It had enough strength. Wretched from your grasp.
Still debating what the best plan might be, our heroes decide that they need more information before going down below, as they continue their trudging towards the gates of Vilstein. As you are about maybe 10 or so minutes outside the city walls, you're staring at the general scene of peasant folk and merchants kind of coming in and out, and the guards checking their wagons, the normal routine for a city gatehouse. You would see that one of the guards who is currently interacting with one of the passerbys kind of looks over, catches a sight of you, and like even from this distance, you see him kind of like do this number and then quickly straighten up and then run towards the guardhouse at the base of the gate. There is maybe like a minute or so before you see perhaps like 5 or 10 individuals all dressed in Philistine garb stepping out from the gatehouse, all kind of lining up, getting orderly, and then proceeding to break off from the wall and approaching you down the road.
Oh boy.
I assume we would see this.
Yeah, the rest of the party would very quickly be.
Are they hostile?
So they are in 2 straight lines in marching order, kind of on both cart wheel tracks of the road, approaching you. You know, they have spears, they're stood tall, they're forward. It's much more of a presentation versus like a show of force. Like they're not like sitting there ready to attack or like preparing a cannon. They're just walking towards you.
There's a body language difference of honor guard versus prepared for trouble.
Probably not.
Can
an
I
honor guard.
insight them?
Go ahead, give me this.
It's
Sure,
more-
yeah.
Any you?
With the preparedness that they show and the determination of their step, it is at least clear to you that they were like prepared for this, whether that is good or bad.
Well, I definitely warn the group to look sharp, and then I'll sit tall in the saddle and hold my glaive in parade fashion as well.
To clarify something, the cart that you guys are currently traveling with is the one with the Golden Heart logo emblazoned on the side of it, correct?
I had both of them done.
Okay, gotcha. So, as they approach, I'm assuming unless there's any other interaction before then, there is a man leading the actual procession towards you. I cannot speak to. He is also dressed basically head to toe in city guard uniform, but he has distinct like military rankings on his dress. He seems a little hesitant to actually step up. There's like a falter in his step right as you get into like conversational distance, but he reaffirms himself, kind of finds his confidence yet again, and he would like stick his spear into the dirt and address you, I would assume, since you're kind of the head of the pack, and he would glance over at the wagon, kind of give himself a little silent nod, and then return back to you. He's like, by royal decree, this is the Golden Hots, correct?
What's his what is his rank from his symbology?
It would be Sergeant of the City Guard, would be what you would recognize.
That's correct, Sergeant.
By royal decree, I have been told to detain the Golden Hots within the city walls of Vilstein. I hope that this will not be a problem with you renowned warriors.
On the contrary, I think we could say that we expected something like this.
I have not been given any sort of details, but I have been told that you are wanted for questioning and are to be held here until further notice. I would hope that you all can be rather orderly and polite about it.
And by holding us, what does that mean? So tired of random cells and...
My orders are to keep you within the confines of Vilstein. That is it. You will be followed by guards if you want to traverse the city, but we will not hold you in any particular place.
Just as well, we have business in the city.
So, be clear, we're free to walk about the city and do as we like.
You are detained within the walls of Vilstein. That is all the orders that I have.
I look at Sierra as she's with us, right?
Mhm.
As we're being detained. Does it look like she knew this was going to happen?
So as this begins going and, everyone starts looking agreeable and this isn't going to turn into anything more, she would kind of look at all of you, and at this point the guards would start flanking either side of the caravan and kind of marching you back towards the gate. But yeah, she would look between all of you, and I have missed something, I assume.
Didn't tell her well.
We'll speak about it once this matter is cleared up.
Assuming this is regarding the unfortunate business.
It must be.
Is there anything other than unfortunate business?
Not for us.
But as the party begin to proceed to the gates of Bilstein, now with the watchful eyes of somewhat nervous-looking younger gentlemen that have certainly been told to do this rather than volunteering, but as you step up to the actual gates, you would spot another man approaching on horseback. He is mounted atop this pure white beast that is clearly very well cared for. Its hair is braided, its tail is braided, it clops across the cobblestone in this very military parade fashion. It is this somewhat pointed display of authority, is probably the correct term I would use. He would walk up, and he is not wearing any sort of helmet. He's dressed more in casual but still military dress. It's not any sort of armor. It is much more of an officer-style look. Valorn, you would quickly recognize the various folkish insignia that are used. He would be a captain of not a particular city or lord or fiefdom. It is a more general ranking, which you would assume is attached to the royal army of folk versus a more localized force. But he would come up and he would very quickly make eye contact with the guard that had initially spoke to all of you, wave them over 2 fingers. They would begin a hushed conversation away from you, which you can begin hearing the voices rising back and forth a little bit before he leans in his saddle pretty far, gets almost directly in the face of the sergeant that you had conversed with, and there is a tense moment before the sergeant just does a little and turns away and men, come along, and all the men kind of look at you and look at him and then kind of scurry off, and the man on horseback would approach you all and kind of give you all a quick glance and eye you, Thor, be like, "You are the Golden Hearts?"
Indeed, Captain, we are.
I am Captain O'Drill. I have the misfortune of being related to you, I assume.
Gregory!
Wait. Your blood relatives.
Yup.
If my father is to be believed, yes. I have taken charge of you all for your payment here. You have arrived on quite a convenient day, and there is much to discuss, but not here. If you guys have any sort of issues to deal with, now would be the time, but I require your lack of discretion.
Require a lack of discretion.
That is what you are rather known for, as far as I'm aware.
Need us to cause trouble.
We should talk not here.
No, he wants to make sure we're not hiding it.
Gregory, do you have magic shops?
Your name is Thorasius, correct?
Yes. You can call me Thor, though.
He kind of rides. Are you on horseback? He would ride up to you, and you see him stop about 5 feet away from you, and he just. I do not believe it. Yes, there are enchanters and magical shops if that is what you people do.
Something I need to look into.
I can point you in the right direction, Thorasius.
Call me Thor.
We'll stick with Thorasius.
Call you Greg.
May not. I am Captain O'Drill.
At this point, Decker tries to see if Gregory O'Drill and Thor share any characteristics, looking at their faces to see if they could potentially be related.
So a 16.
Okay.
As I'm looking at the 2 of them.
So, Captain O'Drill is a very serious looking figure. His eyes never raise above this kind of dull stare. He has these high, kind of gaunt cheekbones, and he's mostly bald. It's clear that he has a buzz cut of some sort that is slightly grown out at this point. His face is cleanly shaven. He has these distinctive kind of gray eyes that are rather dull most of the time. For all intents and purposes, he is if there was a man described as water, that is what Captain O'Drill is. He is the blandest, most tasteless human being you've ever stared at. looking from him to Thor, and like back and forth and back and forth, it's difficult to even try and match the facial features because Thor always has this kind of like smile upon his lips. There's these laughter lines that are built into his skin at this point. So taking the two faces and kind of superimposing them, perhaps the cheekbones are somewhat similar, maybe, but it's not something that you can just like instantly identify as related.
Keep it to me.
But he would begin leading you up towards the officers' academy if that would be acceptable.
Let's lead the way. Perhaps your people could prepare some sort of luncheon. Has been a long road.
Refreshments would be nice.
Would not be a folkish conversation if there was not wine and food.
Of course.
All right. And then he would lead you up through the city. There would be, as you traverse through the townspeople and the merchants and the town criers and the various sounds of this city, all of you would catch kind of lingering glances from various people of the populace. A few of them kind of like huddling with each other and pointing and kind of whispering in hushed conversation. It is clear that either the logo of the Golden Hearts or the various characters of the Golden Hearts now are famous or infamous. Who knows? One of the two. So, as you drift from the party ever so slightly, allowing yourself to pick up little like whispers and comments and various noises coming from these onlookers, a lot of them will hold back what they are saying as soon as you approach, kind of understanding that you don't want to be overheard potentially with what they're saying. But you would hear kind of a distant conversation that two children are having as they're like, they spotted you and then one kind of got bored and they're both racing off down an alleyway. So you're just hearing them basically screaming at each other as they're running, playing tag or hide and seek, something of that sort. You would just be like, it's the second one! Yeah, they've killed two! And then they would dart down the alleyway.
After hearing this, Clay will spur his horse forward up to Valoran and Lord Ethelbane a moment as we ride and try and drop back from.
So I had actually been riding next to him and purposefully having my horse match his in this parade through Vilstein. But I'll slowly drop back for a word.
Then ride up. The captain corrected.
And while they're doing that, I'll go into Aurora at this point and circle ahead of us to see if there's anything I can see looking down.
Okay, go ahead, give me a perception check for Aurora.
Lord Ethelbane, concerned. I believe we are determined to be murderers. Granted, you're not arrest, so probably just suspicions, but I did hear children mentioning now killed two of them. I'm not sure who them are.
People enjoy gossip.
I've seen men thrown in jail for less.
They weren't nobility.
True. Your kind does tend to slip between the fingers.
I'm counting on it.
Be prepared.
Aurora got a natural 20.
What's the total score? 23?
It will work in our favor that our envoy to Queen's Coast was carrying a letter from me, written directly to the Queen, detailing everything that happened. We have nothing to hide.
True. After all, did have plans. Sounds like it. Not.
What we are guilty of is seeking out and challenging evil. Naturally, we leave some broken eggshells in our wake.
I I hope I can retain your optimism.
The Decker, through Aurora's eyes, as you rise above the cityscape and kind of scout around the general area and looking in the direction of which you are traveling, you would be able to rather quickly identify that your path is leading you to this large square structure. It is clearly some sort of like monastery or academic building or like public kind of government building. It has a large square courtyard cut out of the center of it, and there are just a plastering of windows all over the exterior and interior. There is a flurry of commotion on the inside of that interior courtyard. There are men stood in very straight and defined rows and columns. There are like military wagons being circled around and things being hauled from one cart to the other. There is general just kind of hubbub in this location that you are heading towards. Outside of that, looking over the city more in its entirety, it seems that the populace of the city is functioning as normal as you are aware. People are moving about the shops and conversing kind of, lightheartedly on the streets, or, buying different vegetables and produce from the market stalls. So there's nothing that would, make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up or alarm you in any sort of way. So
As I saw the preparations, I would have tried to find any sort of authority figure and just swoop down a little lower to see if I could hear any of the orders that were coming from him.
your range is 120 through Aurora? Or is that only how you command her? I think it's 120.
Yeah.
It might be a little too far at this point.
Okay.
Is there anything that you want to say to the captain before we continue?
Yeah, I guess I'd start the conversation with, well, I guess your dad is doing great.
Yes, my father has been keeping me very well informed on your claims.
I didn't really know. Like, I claimed it. I don't know.
I was speaking of your higher claims, Thrasius, not your questionable birth.
Got a lot going on.
That you do.
And I told the Baron everything that I know, so probably not most of what.
Well, Thrasius, I will not hold your mixed breed against you. But I will not be calling you brother anytime soon. Perhaps.
Call him brother. Make him a less of a brother.
I will have to have further proof than my father's loose claims of finding a barbaric woman in the woods that saved him.
Go to the cave. I don't know what it's like now, but yeah.
It ultimately does not matter for us. And he would continue leading you up towards the building previously described. Would there be any other small things before actually arriving there and being settled in?
Just, as we're winding through the city, I'd like to just look to see if I see any sort of signs.
Not currently. I mean, you would have the general knowing or street smarts of a sign like this isn't just like immediately responded to. You're like laying the groundwork, and this is yeah.
Just looking if anybody had left any.
Gotcha. That might be a little difficult to parse as Aurora because
No, this was.
as Decker.
As I-
Gotcha.
Just keeping in mind.
Okay. But as the party is led into that interior courtyard surrounded by the structure of the academy, he would guide the wagon and you all to kind of just enter into this space, and he would almost dismissively just like hop off his horse and wave his hand, and you would see a small squadron of, I guess you would imagine like underlings or lower ranking members coming out and like grabbing the horses and bringing them to the stables and looking to take the cart from you all and like trying to get you out of the way so the hubbub of the courtyard can continue. So unless anyone has any sort of stinginess about that being taken and stabled, that would all occur.
Not
We
pleasant.
all looked about.
And Valorant is completely comfortable. He is not putting out any vibes of being suspicious or nervous.
No, we're just wondering about your horse. The only one who really.
No, the stable hands of Philstein are more than capable of.
So he would then lead you into what you would imagine is almost kind of a residential wing of the building. You walk by various rooms and you see that there are like bunk rooms, but then there's offices, and it's kind of this combination of parlors and living spaces. You would march down this hallway, and as he passes by a young man that's kind of like stood at attention in the hallway beside you, be like, Neil, food and wine. You would, yes, Captain, and then dart off the hallway. He would lead you down to the dead end, open up a door, and he would lead you into this small, modest chamber. It has a neatly well-made bed off in the corner. It has this kind of modest, worn desk over in the other corner. There are like 3 or 4 chairs in the room. Already there are not enough seating areas for the entirety of the group, but he would walk behind the desk and sit down. He'd start like adjusting a few papers and whatnot on his the surface, and then look at you all and, I can get more chairs if you are uncomfortable, or some of you may stand. I don't really care.
Yeah, small chairs. Be nice.
I'm-
That's a good option.
I will have Neil fetch some more, but you could make yourself comfortable for the meantime.
Decker would sit.
Or
Yeah.
Clay would take a chair. He's only
That would be a chair.
game night.
So he would sit down at his desk, and he would take a moment, kind of just like collect himself before looking across you all. You are quite the colorful group of individuals.
Gonna call us ragtag outright.
We can dispense with it. Of the niceties, why are we here?
I will try and be as forthcoming as humanly possible.
Speak. Why are we here?
I am speaking the Queen's comment, sir.
Decker.
Decker. You have arrived on a very convenient evening, and I imagine that the favor that I have showed you by removing your tails, you may show me a favor, and I, as far as I'm aware, believe that you are of the same mind as myself. There is a farewell dinner for the officers that are being removed from Vilstein and deployed onto the border, and I would like that dinner to be disrupted. And I certainly have a plan and a reason for it, but I do not want to go into further detail unless I am speaking to people who may be agreeable.
The party then quickly inquire about the captain's intentions, wondering what exactly he means by disruption.
I am a true patriot of folk, and we are in a very precarious situation currently, and our future is not looking secured. And I am looking to change that destiny that our country is set upon, though you don't strike me as a folkish.
Be perfectly candid, I am Floridian of Earth, so of the people.
I will not hold your birthplace against you, but forgive me if I do not take your word as strongly as your others.
So currently, you request our assistance with a diversion.
You are of Liamist descent, correct, Deca Caspian? The plan that I am putting forth is going to prevent the slaughter of your people. So I would imagine you would be mostly on board.
Assuming that's true, of course. So, please, all due respect, get the point.
May I ask for an olive branch to be extended before I disclose something that would brand me a traitor to the Queen that I am sworn to serve?
What form would that take?
He goes to like look at you, but then the door opens and Neil steps in, kind of bowing. He has a tray of wine and food kind of clutched in his grasp. He would gesture Neil in. He would set it down onto the desk. He'd be like, "More chairs, Neil." "Yes, Captain," and then dart from the room. He would then return his gaze back to you. "Lord Athelvane, I am both curious and find myself needing necessary information. The events surrounding Northwatch are currently full of rumor and assumptions, and I would simply like to know the truth of what occurred there."
Don't see why there should be any rumor or assumptions. I gave a full account to Her Majesty before we ever left for Vilstein.
From my understanding, that is why you are being detained, so it makes me question your history there all the more.
I don't understand.
Your companions in Queen Coast has arrived, and then the Queen sent a message to the officers over in Vilstein to detain you. Whatever they had to say supposedly did not smooth things over.
So you're not aware of the contents of the letter?
I am simply just been ordered to detain you, and that's all that I know.
Well, I stand by what we did at Northwatch.
Know what we did.
I know rumors.
Count Barbet and his spy enticed us to Northwatch with promises of alliance in the face of a second great entrance brought about by the necromancer Novin, and no less than Thordan himself. However, when we arrived, he revealed that he was in league with Novin, and would have held us there by force of arms.
See, we're tired of the pains.
Force of his arms were not sufficient, and neither he nor his spy survived the attempt.
Well, then it seems that I have surmised your character rather accurately, which is both calming and alarming.
With his own lips, he invoked the downfall of Her Majesty and his own dominion over a new folk.
Well, his greed certainly isn't something that I would agree with, but perhaps his initial sentiment is not too far off what might occur. The Queen of our glorious country is currently leading us to ruin, and I am rather opposed to that.
Where do you fall on the matter of reunification with our imperial cousin?
I would rather see folk turn to smoldering ash than to bow to the Empire once more.
Well then, this conversation may continue.
To be a bit more candid, since I can sense the frustration from those who hail from the south. The officers of Vilstein have been pulled and are currently going to be deployed across the Liamis border, which would only take place if the Queen is planning a military offensive towards Liamis. From my understandings of the letters I have received from my father, you all would certainly oppose such actions occurring and have been fighting for the exact opposite for some time. I want to disrupt that plan and focus upon the task that you all have been chasing after. This Horadan, this Dark Prince, this doom that awaits us all seems a bit more prominent than the borders of folk, Liamis, and the Empire.
That's true.
Might be first time I've ever heard anyone say that besides us.
Also
What
true.
strength will they attack Liamus?
As I alluded to earlier, sir, Liamis is like a pack of wild dogs. While their cities might be heavily defended and their patriotism towards their local community strong, they cannot stand up to a unified force such as folk. They will shatter, they will buckle, and they will turn against each other, and it will be a bloodbath, which I am not interested in seeing. It does not bring glory to our kingdom, it does not progress any sort of agenda for any sort of true patriot of folk, and I do not like merciless slaughter despite my position. Well, as I have hinted towards thus far, this dinner that I want you to disrupt contains the various officers being deployed. This is their farewell to their families and their loved ones before going off to war. I certainly don't want your usual way of dealing with things. I don't want a repeat of Northwatch Castle or the questionable events of Rosecrest Manor, though those have been swept aside as far as I am aware. I simply want you to convince the men in that room that the threat that you are facing, that you are attempting to hold back, is the focus of all good men, instead of this petty and brutal war that they have signed up for.
So we're clear, we're asking us to kill any of
I'm asking you to not kill anybody.
But to convince them to desert.
I am not the only officer that has frustrations with our leadership, and somewhat gracefully or gratefully, Bilstein holds the vast amount of military officers for the Royal Army. So if we can secure a majority, we have enough sway to hold off on the bloodshed until we can no longer hold it back. Any other time that we can buy is what I am aiming to achieve.
But they have received direct orders from your queen.
The reason that I am putting you in this situation is you are the only individuals that I am aware of that have pursued this Dark Prince in a more intimate sense. I do not know the full extent of your interaction with him or his agents, but I can certainly assume it's more than I. So I can only speak in a third-party sense of this power that is coming, but you all have a direct line to what awaits us.
Be happy to do whatever I can. I can only think of my sister, whom I've sent to your queen, now on her way to imprisonment, perhaps.
I'm sure she's being treated well. When war does come between countries, prisoners of war are very useful, especially those.
Yeah, I'd rather her be there than line of fire. If I can.
Lord Athelday, still have that which we sought at the head.
I do.
Kira, who's been standing in the back of the room this whole entire time, just kind of like meets his gaze. I think it is time that we let them know of our business together. Kira kind of looks at you all. Yes, Captain O'Drill is one of the contacts I've been working with in Vilstein. He has been essential in the planning and the resources and the push towards going back into the highways. It, what I understand, is a rather important thing to him, and he kind of nods along. Folk, if it is to stand up against the Empire, if that is what comes to pass, will be rather outmatched without the war machines of Bronshard. We do not have that pathway between our two countries, then the war will be swift and decisive. I am hoping that both using this railway to military might as a tactic or a tool to sway the other officers and to bolster the ranks and the power of the folk military as a whole, we can help convince more of not only the populace and the officers and the nobility of folk that there is strength here that we can rely upon, and we do not have to bow to the Empire and their quickly consuming gaze. So I'm willing to put quite a lot of effort, including potential treason and letting some detainees slip where they shall not.
Be clear, we're going to be addressing assemblage of officers.
I was going to warn you that once that dinner takes place, it would probably be best if you do not remain in Vilstein.
Will you signal your favor of our attendance at this dinner party?
I thought it was best to leave the officers surprised, so you are taking the place of a dancer's performance.
Oh, joy.
I do not expect you to dance, Lord Athelby.
He's quite good at it.
I was going to say, that's going to be a disappointment for them. Is there not a different entertainment that we can replace?
Well, perhaps this, and minor illusion, great eye and chain that we saw.
Kind of set the scene. Is it like, how are you?
So, we're sitting there,
Mhm.
and I will raise up his stubby arm, and a roiling dark mass will, and then erupt outwards. The great eye. Chains will sprout from it and bound above his head. This thing being almost twice the size of Clay, because only 3 feet tall and there's a 5-foot cube. So,
And it's not a very large room, so you would see Clay filling the majority of the open space where you'd all been conversing through with this symbol of the Void Realm. And you would see the captain just kind of stare at it, his already narrow eyes kind of squinting ever so slightly as the thin line of his lips downturn just a fraction. And he would just nod along and then look at you, Clay. I think that is precisely what I have been looking for and why I sought you out for your expertise.
We'll all have a role to play in this. None of us should be silent. We all have our facets that are useful to events.
I will put forth that, though most enlisted men call us pompous, you are addressing military men that have served, fought, and died through many horrendous scenes that
That is precisely the facet of their humanity I tend to appeal to.
I just want to make sure that you are not approaching them as commoners, because they very much are not.
Stand.
Oh, to be clear, one a half note.
Excuse me when I don't put much faith in the nobility of folk.
I have me.
The O'Drills are new nobility, as I'm sure Athelbane is aware. My father put a lot of work and a lot of graceful ass-kissing to secure his position, and while I will certainly not shy away from the title we have been given, it is not my purpose to cling to familial heritage and lineage.
Fair enough.
I think as peers, we can recognize that there are those lords and ladies in our kingdom whose only virtue is the circumstances of their birth.
I assume since you have now witnessed or been rather close in proximity to the death of two lords, you're not opposed to thinning the herd.
So far, I agree rather fully with the statements you have made. But the fates of Count Salamon and Count Barbet are examples of a truism. The truth will out. They did it to themselves.
How much time do we have before this meeting?
Well, the dinner takes place at around sunset, around 7 or 8. You have several hours before you are needed. Around 1 o'clock at this point.
And we time to prepare both our travels and for this conversation.
You will no longer be tailed. You are under my protection, and I will let you move about the city as you see fit.
Captain, is there a temple to Remotes?
Yes, we have a new ring temple up on the eastern part of the city. I can give you directions if you'd like.
Thank you.
Neil comes in with 2 chairs.
Is that all, Captain?
I think so. Quickly. Well, the general rundown as far as that I am aware of, I have 10 very dedicated dwarves that have come to my cause. They are strong and fierce and just as reliable as I to the last. There is now the Golden Hearts bolstering that force. We have the Pocket Sun, or the device that we have wielded last time. I have the map of the roads and my old notes from the Legion on various accounts and threats that have been recorded, though that is now very questionable due to the lack of returning patrols. And then the patronage or the support of Battle Leader Halfbeard to allow us to go into the tunnels at all. That's about as much as I have. As you are leaving the officer academy and you're splitting off from the group, I'm assuming you tell them where you're going and what's going on. You're only about a minute or so away before a young lad comes running up to you. He seems rather as casually excitable as a child would be. He is clutching a letter in his hand and he comes barreling up. The guy looks you up and down. You're like, "Hey, Decker, yeah?
Him?
Caspian? Caspian?
Caspian.
Oh." And he hands you a letter.
And you are?
Willis,
Who gave you this?
the messenger service. I work for them.
Messenger service.
Yeah?
Of course, then. Then and get, a random change.
Mhm.
Call it.
7.
It's like 5 copper would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're like, all right.
Is that enough to get you something to eat?
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Give me an insight check.
Inside check.
Shit. 13.
That's the kid, by the way.
Wait, it's
Big Mrs. Potato Head.
He doesn't give you this like decisive feeling, but as he turns away and he's like clinking the coins in his hand, there's like just the slightest tingle in the back of your mind. It's like, that wasn't how that transaction should have gone. There's just like, nothing was like bad about it. There was just this like, that was strange.
And I'll
The letter would be from Gavin, and we can go over the contents of that if you'd like, or however you want to handle it.
sure.
Okay. As you open up the letter, the spark notes of it, instead of going through a whole monologue and having you decipher bullshit of me trying to talk better than I can, he has arrived at the Queen's Coast. You have learned that he is being detained by the Queen along with the rest of the envoy that you have sent. He is not fully aware of the situation. It appears that Danica and Sir Campbellton and the guard Tom are kind of the spearheads of like the conversation taking place, and he has been allowed to kind of just peruse the religious accountings and history and knowledge that they have over in Queen's Coast. So he's just been knee deep in that for the whole time, and he has begun finding various stories and tales and like kind of allusions towards the soul dancers and what they used to do and what they have done, and the various rituals and practices and honorings that they do on a daily basis. And while a lot of them don't make sense because they are framed or written in a way as like first person of these effects and these sensations that only a soul dancer would be able to tangibly realize, he has done his best to try and turn it into a list of instructions on various practices and words or phrases that you could attempt to say to invoke a little bit more of this weird power that's been bestowed upon you. And it's not the best, but it's better than nothing. And then of course at the bottom he'd say, I hope all is well with you. We're no immediate danger as far as I'm aware, and I'm just going to keep doing research until someone tells me to not. And that's kind of the letter in its entirety.
Right. I'd be reading that as I'm walking.
So, Thor, I'm assuming you're leading the charge towards the magic shop with the rest of them in tow. Using the directions from Syrah, it is this almost kind of like cottage-like aesthetic in the middle of Vilstein, which folkish architecture that you've been dealing with for quite some time is this kind of like gothic, spiky, stone spiring aesthetic, right? It's this menacing, rather steady, intense visual. In amongst this gray and black smudge of a city, there is this cottage with like a little brick chimney pointing out kind of at an angle from the roof. There's these long sweeping wooden shingled roofs that kind of like droop down towards the door, almost like a big hat has been placed atop this building. There are frosted glass windows on the front that show off the various like magical items that are on display. The door is this like vibrant red with all these like golden little swirled paintings on the front of it. It is a very eye-catching building, and atop the door and this kind of sweeping sign and golden lettering that actually seems to like almost like a snake was alive, swirl through the letters and kind of highlight them as like a neon sign before swirling down and letting it fade and then repeating the process a few moments later. But it would be the Dapper Elf.
Yes, I would try the door to, or is the door open, not open?
It's not open, but you would be able to.
I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll just walk in.
As you step in, the previous magic shop that you were used to being Oldest's Emporium of Stuff, which was basically just a pit of things that he hovered around, this is almost the equivalent of like a McAdoo's. There is just weird stuff plastered to the walls, hanging from the ceiling, like all over the shelves. It is organized, but there's just so much visual stimulation that you walk in and you're just like, whoa. And there's like things moving and like hopping around, and there's a lot of commotion, but it is welcoming in an odd way. As you come in, there's this like chiming noise that starts above the door and then it kind of drifts throughout the building and into the back room where there's a small door. But as you are looking around, the first thing you realize is there aren't like magnificent weapons and armor on the walls or like these giant, scepters of, fireball. It's like glittering masks and long flowing cloaks and dainty gloves and a whole counter of magical rings and amulets and tiaras and jewelry. Seems a lot more like an accessory shop would be a way of putting it. But as the bell chime kind of reaches the back, this tall, robed elven figure that has white flowing hair that comes down to about his waist, but it's like swept back over his head. He has these long, slender fingers, and his ears point out so prominently that they're almost like daggers. On the tips of the ears, there's a silver and gold, I guess, like accessory or bobbit attached to the end of them. And there's these long, swooping bits of jewelry that actually come back and hang on a stud that is pierced through his skin on his chin. He has this kind of like regal posture that causes the swoop chains to kind of like dangle as he moves his eyes from one to the other. He has his hands clasped in the big flowing robe that he wears, and due to how low the robe hangs, it looks like he just floats from the back room. He's up on this like small wooden platform with a staircase that kind of spirals down into the main area that you're standing in. You look down at you and well, welcome. What can I do you for today, sir?
Hello, Mr. Dapper.
I am Paris Halexin, sir. What is your name?
My name is Thor. You,
What is your last name, Thor?
Thor Thorasius Fireheart.
Well, sir, Thorasius Fireheart, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the Dapper.
Oh, I feel special right
Paris Halexin. Well, my clientele is always treated with the utmost respect because my clientele is most respectable.
I was, I guess my companions and I were looking.
You begin kind of like descending the staircase as you're speaking.
We're looking, I guess, wanted to just see what you have, because it looks like you have quite the collection here. May have some specifics, not certain as of yet. I have a specific. Also might be looking to sell some things, quite possible.
He would come up and he'd like grab your hand and he'd very slowly kiss you on the back of the hand.
Oh my.
Well, I am here for whatever you need, Thorasius Fireheart. Just whatever your heart desires, I will try and procure for you.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen many big things around here.
Well, I've seen many big things, you included, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I don't know if you have anything in the means of like weaponry. I'm more looking for like a shield or something that might fit my other arm, because this hand has a hammer and this just doesn't have anything.
Well, I hate to disappoint, but I shall find you something that you are looking for. I do not carry any sort of physical shield that is much too brutish for a shop such as my own.
That would make sense.
But a shield of the mind, I do have. It's a very popular item amongst my clientele. It's very necessary for certain higher-ups to converse with one another without their minds being read.
Interesting.
Yeah, it would be a ring of mine.
Damn.
Kind of look down at you like, oh, my short master, welcome. What is your name, sir?
Please.
He would, you wear that kind of, almost cowboy hat. Yeah. He would very delicately lift the hat off. You bald.
Yeah, everything.
And just very daintily kiss the top of your bald head and put the hat back down. Welcome, sir. It is a pleasure to have you here.
I'll look over to the other two. I find myself somewhat lacking the department on the half. On the leg here.
People like doing that to you, don't they?
You tall boy.
Would you have perhaps some help me keep up? I've heard of a pair that listed walking faster and jumping.
Well, I'm afraid that the first thing that comes to mind is I have Boots of the Ball. It helps you be lighter on your feet when you're courting a young woman or a young man. I do not judge. Perhaps I could modify them, or perhaps that would serve your purpose. I don't know if they would do the same effect that you are looking for.
What?
Mechanically, Boots of the Ball would give you advantage on performance checks, but also allow you to move silently without making it.
Yeah. No, perhaps not.
Why don't we try them on you, sir, and then you can see what they do and perhaps reconsider. They look
I haven't
very attractive.
washed in a while, but just don't mind them, then sure.
You would kind of gesture down and like wait for you to take your boots off. And do you have like socks and shit on underneath? No, just dirty little feet. You're kind of like, and then prestidigitate all the dirt and grime and whatnot off of your feet. Much better, sir.
Than this clean. Well,
And you, sir, what is your name?
Valorant Applebait.
Oh, my lord. And he would take your hand and very quickly kiss the back of your hand. And are you looking for anything particular today?
Yes, I am. I would like your services in identification, if you can.
Oh, I always love a little exploration.
And something to see in the dark without light.
Lord Athelvane, you were inquiring about a pair of goggles, yes?
Right.
I think I do have some of those in the back. You want to have those items identified as well.
Yes, that would be very good.
Then we shall be stepping into my workshop if you want to keep your eyes upon them as you asked.
Very well.
And then what is the list of stuff being identified?
The ball of strength that we got at Asshole's House of Asshole.
Ball of Strength?
Yeah.
Is that Chris?
No, that's from the magic shop in Freeside City. But he was very vague as to, like, I want to know exactly what it does. I
Alright.
want to know, like, it makes you strong and then you go to sleep.
I thought we did figure that out. And that's
Like-
exactly what that does. I
Yeah,
thought.
it like gave you a 22 strength mod. Like
I don't remember ever actually specifically identifying.
Did I ever make that in the homebrew? I don't think I did. Anyway, so that and
And the gem that Jarek found in the swamp.
where did you find that this one?
I happen to have rolled, I think,
Yeah, he did.
when just poking around in the mud, and what I recall, it burns meat. That's about
Ah, yes.
What
And it's a ruby?
ruby.
Yeah.
What is that blue stone is?
Okay, sure.
That's pretty
Oh.
good. That's something to trick.
And then anything else?
And what Thor pokes his head in and he's like, hey, and this.
A hammer?
Well, yeah, I guess the hammer, but also the blue stone that I got from.
Yeah, the list is getting longer.
Yeah,
What was the stone from?
it was from the where I got the power from that bear fight. Afterwards, there was rock or something.
Oh, okay, yep.
I don't know if it's magical.
The smooth kind of small pebble that you got. Yep.
Are you doing the hammer too?
I
mean, might as well just throw everything in there.
Yep,
Alright.
yep, yep.
And that's where we're taking our 10-minute break.
And the Eye of Shep.
The what?
And the Eye of Shetland.
Right. Alright, and 10-minute break. Okay. So, Decker, as you finish your prayer and you are coming out of this is a grand temple in Vilstein. This is one of the prominent sites of the New Ring religion, being part of one of the major cities of folk. So there's a ton of various, like, interesting sights to behold and various tapestries and works of art to, I guess, look into. There was a lot of genuine input and curiosity with the religious leader that you spoke to inside of the temple itself, but you more or less gained a more in-depth knowledge of the things that Gavin touched upon so far. And he would comment that he is rather impressed about your knowledge of Vermutz and your, I guess, like, deciphering of his various teachings and meanings. But he would probably at some point comment on you not having a broader understanding of the Pantheon, but that's because Gavin focuses on Vermutz to a perhaps unhealthy degree. That's a conversation for another time. But as you are leaving, and you are still dealing with the lingering strange sensation of the prayer that you have dealt with from Gavin, that child that had handed you the message earlier is kind of like stood off to the side of the road. You see he's kind of like eyeing you. He's not like looking, I don't know, violent or aggressive. He's just kind of leaned up against the wall, just kind of like clinking the coins that you gave him earlier, just giving you a little eye.
I'd look back at him and nod at him.
Kind of like, and then turn around and start walking down an alleyway.
He
Yeah.
nodded that way.
Like,
Before I followed him, I would do a scan of the area to see if anything stands out.
your perception.
$13.
Is this just a Decker perception, right?
Yeah.
There isn't any other, I don't know, strange or recognized individual staring at you. There's no one really been focused on you. You seem to be rather, oh, excuse me. Yes. You seem to be just kind of functioning as any other individual in this plaza. So the fact that he was staring at you is somewhat significant, and there's no other red flags that you can spot. So.
Okay. And given that I'm trying to initiate contact, I'm assuming. Yeah, so I'll follow.
So it would begin leading you down the alleyway that he is turned down, and he makes sure to keep a considerable distance, perhaps like 20 or 30 feet between you, where the alleyway is this long, straight shot, and then at one point on the right side of the alleyway, there is a like an intersection or a junction where another alleyway connects. At the corner of that building, he drops 3 of the coins that you gave him before, just on that corner, and then kind of like looks back to make sure he's still following, and then continues straight up the path.
Okay, so I stop at that where he dropped him. I'll look at the entryway.
So as you step up to the coins, out of like the peripheral of your vision, as you're about to look around the corner, you see this kind of hooded figure tilted away from you, so that when you do glance around, you just see kind of like the shoulder and the back of it, and you see this kind of antique bronze twisted horn coming out from beneath the hood and kind of pointed your direction. And as the sound of you like shifting near the corner occurs, you hear this voice like, "Don't come around the corner, stay where you are, where the coins are."
Won't say anything. I'll just do as instructed.
What are you looking to know? What do you need?
Nation.
What?
Wolvenheim.
Not exactly super informed about that, but alright.
Explore. Standing that has particular danger greater than all is there. Any information?
From what I hear, it sounds pretty dangerous down there. I want to go down there if you value your life, but it sounds like you're going down there anyway. From what I understand, there are multiple factions interested in the outcome of the highways.
Which fact?
You have the royal army, you have the officers, you have the dwarves, you have the nobility in Vilstein, and supposedly the races that live down in the highways themselves, they're not too pleased with the dwarves as far as I'm aware.
For their interests.
The officers, they probably want some sort of military gain. Folk probably wants to keep themselves locked away from the dwarves because that's a whole can of worms that is not needed to be opened currently. And I imagine the dwarves and the races that live down there just don't really particularly like each other.
The guild, they have an interest.
Outside the surface, there isn't a lot of interest.
He wants pleasure, financial gain, ways of information.
If the opportunity presents itself, we certainly will not shy away, but there are bigger fish to fry.
Opportunity. Going there. Thing we can secure for you, and so that offer.
If you find any information down there, I will pay well.
Hey, broad enough. See what I can do. Again, we are facing a individual threat, something that by itself can demolish whole patrols of dwarves. No information.
Exactly my speciality.
Understood. We find ourselves addressing an assemblage of officers. You know the ones I speak?
Yes, the farewell ball.
Yes. Trying to persuade them to our cause. Is there any information that
You want blackmail?
wants
Willing to pay? How much?
that depend?
Money first.
Reasonable, sir.
I find my pockets light of 100 gold pieces.
To it, it's at least 140 for the nation.
Perhaps my weary bones can hold that weight. You see like a kind of like shriveled hand poke out from beneath the robe and kind of stick around the corner.
You understand the bonus I'm offering. Search him, sir. Anything that helps.
In the money.
I reach inside my. Sure, I would have.
So you would take the sum and you would just hear it's like click 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 click, and he like rapidly starts counting it in the moment, and eventually, all right. There is a man, an officer there, Percival Dunes. He'll be attending. He is currently trying to go around his superior officer. I don't know the exact details of what his coup involves, but he's gotten a bunch of his peers into a small ring. You expose that ring to a superior officer, who knows what advantage you may seek.
No offense intended. That's it. That's some of the information. Not to say that it's not worth anything.
Well,
Military coup.
140 is an odd number. If it was 150, that's an easier sum.
And for a penny and for a pound, it's 10 more. So what else have you got?
Click, 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 click. Superior officer is a man, Captain O'Drill.
I've heard of him. Do you know of anything of this O'Drill?
Say it again?
What can you tell me about this Captain O'Drill?
Seems rather dry. Been trying to get blackmail on him for some time. He's rather persuasive, and
It's one of those.
he's been meeting with other officers, which usually means something ill, but he's very, very precise, careful. I don't like it. Maybe that's perhaps why his underlings are looking to throw him overboard.
So, in your estimation, my best course of action might be to talk to this Captain O'Drill about Percival and his attempted coup.
Or perhaps Percival could be persuaded to knock off someone in your way. The captain is in your way.
No, we're actually on a working basis with this Captain O'Drill. We've met him today.
Well, then I shall let you know that Percival is not what he presents himself to be. He has forged papers to join the ranks of the Royal Army.
Percival,
Percival.
the felony.
He is a wanted man.
Wanted for what?
I don't know the details,
Already paid.
but he is from Druid Empire, and he is wanted from there.
Yeah, proof of it.
I do not have proof, I just have the knowledge.
Mister. Last question. Are there any dangers in the city that we should know about? Good to be poking about for a day or so.
Young folks, if you poke in the wrong place, a poison needle or a lashing or a lynching, it's known to happen.
See fit to give one of those coins to the boy. He looks hungry.
He's paid well.
Then
Up to 10, then you can leave. You're shuffling down the alleyway. So, party at the magic shop. So you are now up in that raised, like almost kind of like, it's a half floor, it's not like a second floor, where his workshop is stashed in the back. It's a lot less presentable than the actual store room, but still, I guess it can accommodate the majority of you. There's like a large, like kind of centered desk that kind of aims directly at him with all his various products kind of half built on them. But he would set down the collections of items that you had, and he's going to start going down the list. So first is the ball of strength that you hand him. He would kind of mull it over. He pulls down this kind of like mechanical magnifying glass and stares through. There's multiple lenses that kind of flick into place. And he's like, where did you acquire this item?
Freeside City.
I have not been to Giles myself. Seems like a rather dull place.
You're not wrong.
Yes, so he would eventually describe, pretty similarly to what had been alluded to previously, it allows the user 1 minute of 20 strength. It will not, like if you have 20 strength, it will have no effect, basically. And then after that 1 minute is up, you would gain a level of exhaustion following it.
I remembered it not being useful to me because I already have a 20 instrument.
But if someone has to carry your fat ass out of, like, a death pit, you know, Clay can be like, oh, actually it's not a potion, but... Yeah.
Doesn't really help all. Help me either.
Then the gem ruby, which I imagine Clay would give, because is that technically Clay's? Yeah. Oh, it was Jarek's, wasn't it? Okay. Yeah.
I'll say that I have it.
Okay. So same thing. He would obviously hand the ball of strength back, kind of look this over. He's like, well, my gentlemen, quite the fiery substance you have found. And he would kind of hold it up, and he would like stare through. He'd hold it up to this like magical light ball that kind of like swirls around him. Like, you have caught yourself a fire elemental, rather spicy. So it is a fire elemental that has 50 HP and lasts a minute.
Okay. Is there something I can? I guess I can keep that.
What would you rather?
And
I
does
don't
it-
know.
Do you roll it?
Yeah, it basically functions as like a summoned elemental. But yeah, 20 HP and a minute. So
Is there something?
50, sorry.
Something,
Yeah.
there's something in here that I can add.
No, I haven't set that up yet, but yeah. But it works very similar to that water elemental stone that you guys had. Yeah.
Immediately.
It
worked so well.
It used up one of its high level spells.
Sure it did, yeah. It worked so well.
But yeah, that would be that.
Again.
So then the mother's hammer was next on the list, which, you know, he kind of like sits on the workbench. It takes up like a huge amount of the space. He's like, might be beyond me, but I will try. And he kind of like looks it over, and this takes a much longer process. Where the other ones, you know, he almost was like familiar with them before explaining. This is like a whole new experience to him, and some of the almost like charismatic entrance that he had when you guys came into the shop kind of fades away as he gets really focused in on his work, and he like forgets to talk to you guys for almost like multiple minutes in a row. He's just like back and forth and flipping it over and kind of like tapping it or scraping the metal a little bit with his fingernail and just kind of manipulating it for a fair amount of time. Eventually he's like, well, I don't think that I have come in contact with something this old before. It's fascinating. I will say sadly that I cannot unlock all of its potential. It is meant for a more stout individual, if you know what I mean. And it appears that they will need to be a holy man of some sort. But it appears to be able to mold stone into life. I don't quite know the specifics. It's something I am wholly unfamiliar with, which is rather exciting.
That's good. Explain some things. I would like to get a Kira. She's there.
So okay, one thing that we have not really made clear is the Pale Legion and the Dwarves of the City are kind of different cultures. When you sign on to the Pale Legion, it's like 30 or 50 year long contracts, and usually it's younger dwarves that sign up. And so a lot of them like don't. It varies. Anyway, so a lot of them don't know a lot of the kind of like traditional cultural things of the surface dwarfs, is what they call them, even though they're dwarves to you. So she is not like a believer of the First Mother. She's not a like devout, you know, religious. Yeah, and so like as this is being described and obviously being mentioned that it's like of dwarven descent and whatnot, she'd be like, but wouldn't really like have any input yet.
It's very interesting, but not what what I expected.
Well, and then we have your little pebble.
Yeah, is it just a rock?
Kind of takes it and kind of looks back at you and Horatius, come here, my good sir. He kind of holds the light up, and he holds the pebble up to the light, and as you look through it, for a second you think you're seeing your eye in a reflection in the light itself. But for like after another moment, you're like, that isn't quite my eye, and then you slowly realize it's your mother's eye. That seems to be somewhat trapped in this smooth pebble. When you hold up the light, you're able to see it, but when you take it down, you cannot. It doesn't seem to like move or do anything. It's just like kind of like a almost a clear like frame that like light is being shined through. It's like it doesn't seem to be magical, at least in my sense, but it is Julia. And I'll hand it back to you. And then finally, the little ring box.
We'll pop it a bit.
My lord, you have a severed eye and a ring box. That is, Julia.
You don't know the half of it.
Well, I'm sure you have quite the tale to tell. Let me see it real quick. Take it, sit in his workshop, and you would see, you know, he brings the glass down, he starts kind of like making these small motions with his hands. Everyone give me an insight check that's here, which is Clay, Thor, and Valor, and Jesus.
Ian said, I would be at this point returning back to where. So
They probably told you they were heading to the shop, so you probably meet them outside. Probably.
Somebody advantage rather than.
No.
You just let me know when I'm back.
Okay.
That would be funny though. Your face.
15.
15.
15.
And one.
Okay. So, Valorant and Clay, as you are watching, you've seen Paris do this process, 3 times in a row now. And you can tell for a moment that something's not right. You see the magic kind of that's like swirl from his fingertips being sucked towards the eye, and there's this like prickle down the back of your spine of like, oh no. And Thor's just like, hey, eye. And as he continues to manipulate the small box and then actually goes to grab the eye, everyone give me a dexterity saving throw. You two with advantage.
Don't forget that.
Clay and James.
But I
are
already
going.
have Dex.
I guess you can see it. Yeah, okay.
I'll think that's advanced. Dirty
17.
Also dirty 20.
2017. Alrighty. Give me one more, sirs.
Damn.
So you try to detect magic, and it's like, fuck you.
Why do all these body parts explode?
I'm starting to think at this point we could put all of them in a big hole and light it on fire.
Everybody in the room takes 15 points of radiant damage, and you are all blinded. And as this vibrant white flash occurs, you just hear this, oh no! Gentlemen?
Yeah, whoa. We're still here. Hello?
I'm going to blindly paw for the eye for the ring marks.
Okay. You would find Paris's like wrist before you kind of like follow his wrist to the hand that's holding the eye at this point,
Okay.
and you would be able to find the eye.
All right. I'm gonna hold his hand with the eye until our vision starts to come back.
It's about like a minute and a half. It's a fair amount of time that everyone's just kind of like sitting there, and as everyone's standing there, Sierra off in the corner like, Paris like, was that supposed to happen, gentlemen? I'm not sure.
I was hoping you could tell us.
Well, I did see something, but I can't investigate while I am in this condition.
Perhaps for the best.
Maybe it'll go away. Hopefully. Because otherwise, this is going to be really bad for the future of what we have to do.
So eventually, as your vision begins to return, Paris would like find Valorant's hand on his wrist and like follow up to Valorant, like kind of like touch your face to make sure he's looking at you. Be like, Lord Athelvane,
Yes.
I'm concerned.
Go on.
One moment. Before the rather spontaneous blindness, I felt the effects of what you might call true sight or true vision. Varies from place to place. Clearly, it was a bit too much for us common folk. But I felt the effect before the fallout.
I see. Did you get a sense of how to cause this effect?
Well, he's still holding the eye, right?
He's on the eye and I'm holding the
Yeah. You kind of like look into the pupil. He's like, there are some cases with body parts that dispersing the vessel will allow you to outlast the negative effects. So,
Of course.
Or would just before we start.
or I guess you could, or maybe you could get creative with it. Perhaps we can make like a little glove with like ornamentation around the ring.
Uh-huh. Well, I think that's all for now.
I'm so sorry that I could not be of more use. It's interesting.
That was very wow, very.
You are fascinating individuals.
Yes, we are.
I would love for you to return.
Might, it might not. Very possible either way.
Someday.
Well, sir, thank you so much for your services and forehead kisses.
What was the top of the head? Let's be more specific.
Tommy.
I have one more request that I thought of. That will be good. So, you know what I am, right? The Goliath, obviously. But we have Rocky Talkies. Do you have something like a Rocky Talkie?
Rocky, talking.
Yeah, so like basically you can talk through one and then you can hear through the other one.
Messaging stone.
Sure.
I do have one, yes, or a pair.
How much for that?
It's my personal one, so I would not want to part with it for a small sum.
That doesn't help me with the price.
Horatius, if you do me a favor, then I will find a suitable cost for you, huh?
Well, what's his favorable cost?
400 gold pieces.
Which is like down in what?
He has sending, but not message.
Yes, message.
Oh, message, not sending, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I can't foresee this being.
That's what
Or-
lost her other something.
Put that when you're done.
Yeah, I know.
You have the ball of speed.
Don't speak.
A recorded message.
Would have been useful like a week ago. Bring.
I remembered that at Martin's place.
Record what he said.
Yeah, I was wondering if anyone was going to bring that up. We've had it for a while.
I forgot that we even had it.
We've got some.
Although technically-
Someone has to do, like, at the start of each session, here's all the magic items that we have.
although technically he died before he said anything to us. But he didn't have a ball.
Yeah, Valorant also had a bang bottle.
The ball.
I heard.
The ball would have been the ball would have been in the cart too.
Anyway,
And what is your
I-
favor?
so your
Yeah, I think so.
vertically challenged companion, he is going to do some rather spirited dancing this afternoon, as far as I'm aware. Any of the onlookers that look pleased, tell them where he got those specific charming boots of his.
I'd like to. As to whether or not, after what we do, is really going to help this guy by putting his name
Is
forth.
that self-insight?
Well, and just kind of thinking of like
A global insight?
kind of an idea of like,
Yeah, give me a roll.
really going to help him
His
if I
head may
mention
be
his
cut
name.
off, but you
after?
know what's cut in half. These prices that
22.
Depending on how the Golden Hearts handle this evening, it could be bad press to affiliate the Dapper Elf to the Golden Hearts.
As he dances across the corpses of them.
This slaughter is brought to you by the Jaffa.
just so we're aware of, we're not getting. We'll need them. Fine. I just wanted to throw it out there because that was the last thing I thought of.
It's a good idea, but
I mean, we've got signal whistle. Well, y'all have signal whistle.
yeah,
For somebody, because we always leave somebody in another place that we can't communicate. As you have a message or sending.
Giggles has it.
Giggles.
Okay.
I guess we have Giggles, and we bring him.
except this time. He's in Queen's Coast.
Brought him with you.
Yeah, we said that at the beginning.
Okay.
I don't know why we would. Unless
I don't know if we're gonna bring. Yeah.
So he can send us messages.
No,
Well,
so
no,
we
so we
can't
can send
be part
everybody
of
else.
it.
We can't miss you if you don't leave.
Well, the whole point of going through the highways is to get the pieces of bronze shard as far as the golden hearts are concerned.
Well, I was deal with the threat and then bring the highly important.
You know, after conferring with my party, you actually don't need them.
That's a pity.
But I will do your advertising for free.
Thank you, Thorasius.
Would you have an interest in the strength ball?
What would you be looking to pot for it, Lord Athelvane?
One ring of life.
I had to get.
I need about tree pity.
Give me persuasion.
Damn monster.
250 gold.
24.
I don't enjoy collecting things that are not my forte. I don't imagine. Well, perhaps I could find some young lad who's trying to impress a gentlewoman and heave a massive stallion over his head.
Exactly what I was thinking. Or an elderly noble who wants to enter one last tournament.
I like your mind, Lord Athelbane. Oh, 350 gold I can part with.
Done.
Really just want money back.
Decker, you can arrive outside the shop now.
Okay.
I don't think we have anything else.
Open the door.
Oh, hey.
You'd hear the chime floating up to the workshop because you guys are in the back of the thing, and then it appears we have another customer. I will have to bid you adieu for a moment, gentlemen.
I believe he's part of our party.
Oh, by all means, you can come up if he is, or
Found another magic shop.
Valoran tosses you a pair of night goggles.
Well, since we skipped the ones in your home,
For these.
They will allow you to see in the dark.
Oh, scandal.
well, some ladies prefer having the lights off.
and
Are you a lady?
I'm Paris.
That's a female.
No, it's a man. Well, as far as you can tell.
I take his hand and delighted to meet you.
What is your name, sir?
Becca Caspian.
I've heard that name before.
It's probable.
Is there any sort of magical oddities you're looking for?
It's a broad question.
You're a broad man.
Looking for them all.
Then you're much like your companion here. Well, I think I have been of full service to this merry band. Are you a organization, or are you just a group of fascinating individuals?
A loose confederation.
we are the golden heart.
Oh, that
Yeah.
explains quite a lot.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
weren't those people?
Yes, I have heard some colorful conversation about you.
It's only half true.
I'm half impressed. Well, Golden Hearts, it has been an absolute delight. And if you ever find yourself in Philistine again, I will be happy to do business with you once more.
Again, rings and necklace. If that's what you Or if you're looking for anything in general.
Do you have anything else as strange as the hammer or the eye? I would love to inquire.
Not on me right now. Oh. I don't know, you can look at this pickaxe.
I do have gloves of lubing. You're interested in trade?
I have seen a few pairs in my time.
They put out quite a lot of volume.
Are you looking to part with these gloves?
Only under the correct circumstances. What
Would be-
gloves do you have?
Well, we have gloves of grip. That's popular with the ladies. We have the slender fingers.
Explain as you name them off what they do.
So the gloves of grip will give you advantage on climbing checks. The slender fingers will give you advantage on sleight of hand checks.
I'd like to propose a trade. Gloves of lubing for the gloves of fingers.
The slender fingers.
Slender fingers.
They are usually more feminine gloves, but I can find one that's a bit more passive. And they will probably not be the same value, good
I
sir.
understand if you want to throw in some gold coin along with.
Ah, you are hilarious, sir. But I will go retrieve them for you. He would shuffle off towards the storeroom. He would eventually come back. They are... The back of the gloves are white. And there's kind of like gold... what's the word I'm looking for?
Embroidery.
Like the sewing marks, the seams. There's like gold seams along kind of like almost the outline of your fingers, and the inside of them are black. And so it's this like white and black, kind of almost like what was it, Beyonce, the whole glove thing. So he would present those to you. They are clearly a bit more like slender and built for women's hands, but it is
I would imagine that Decker's hands are not.
yeah. And also they do kind of shift to the wearer's size more or less. So he'd kind of lay one out and present it to you. Like, because I find you just so enchanting, Decker, I will only ask 50 gold pieces on top of the trade, and I will let you walk out with these fabulous gloves.
What's the luck? 50 gold pieces. Not us.
I have a knack for these things.
Dalton. Okay. Well, and I just I put them on, and yeah, I mean they fit fine. Deal.
You just like when you slip your fingers by each other, where like with regular gloves, it's hard to like feel the feedback of like where your other fingers are. With this, it almost like enhances your senses of your hand. You can like know exactly where your hands are without even really looking at them, which gives you this kind of like incredible deftness with it, like no matter where they're at.
Alright.
I aim to please, Decker.
This was invented by a god, if you really will.
He would look at it, but for time's sake, yeah, he would explain what it does and the curse and all that fun stuff.
Figured that out.
Perfect.
Yep, I'll have to make those, yeah. Anything else, gentlemen, before you leave my humble abode?
Purchased the from it now.
You certainly have been rather good business.
Ever get into the weapon or shield business?
That attracts violent swords, and I'm not really a violent man. So it's probably 5 in the afternoon. You probably get an hour or two before the dinner.
So what did you do, Decker? You obviously know what we did. Doing shit.
So are we? Where are we at right
And you're outside that magic shop, which is kind of on the northern side of the city. where the Officers Academy is kind of in the south, and then where you're having your dinner is basically right beside the Officer Academy, this kind of like large communal building.
Are we in a secure enough area where a low whisper would not be?
Oh yeah, you're like walking around the street, so like as long as someone isn't like right next to you, you could all be kind of conversing quietly.
Well, I've gained some information. Well, since you asked, your brother, we'll need to talk to him soon. Appears as if there's a trying to throw a coup against him. And then I would explain that he's not, that from Pruitt. So, I think it might be best that you tell him. Maybe start forging those bonds of brotherly alliance. You'd be the one who informs him that he's got a rotten apple in the ranks.
Definitely. What was his name again?
Us.
Or
Your brother? Udril. Captain Udril.
I mean, the guy who's overthrowing
Us.
Percival. Fuck that.
Seems to have a number of followers.
Right, yeah. I was going to pay my half-brother a visit.
It will need to be sooner than.
I probably will head there next. As only was.
Agreed.
Pretty capable. Oh. I feel pretty capable of taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of.
So is the plan to head back to the Officer Academy, meet back up with Captain Erdrill?
Probably go. Bad.
Any other business before that? Because we'll probably roll into the dinner after this. So, all right. So returning back to the academy, which I imagine was where the carts got left, to make things easier. Yeah. And then to his quarters, he would still be sat behind his desk whenever you knock on the door, assuming it was Thor. Just come in.
Hello, Captain.
Hello, Thorasius. Have you had a colorful evening?
Many ways, yes. Experienced the dapper elf.
Ah,
Yeah. You ever been there?
I have heard of that place.
Basically all I got from it was they sell a ring that sends you the Queen's Coast and brings you back from the dead. So keep that in mind in case you ever want that or need that. Also Decker, some digging, and apparently there is someone named Percival that is.
Yes.
So he is. He doesn't like you.
That was obvious enough.
Yeah, and he's apparently getting a bunch of people together to overthrow you.
Eager to hear this.
Yeah, I imagine everyone's here.
Go on. Hold on.
Most important. I missed.
He's not one of you. He's forged paper.
Oh,
Pruitt.
Well.
Foreign spy who's inserted himself into your ranks as an officer, plotting a coup against you personally. Good luck with all that. It seems as if you've got as many problems as we do, kind of thing.
I don't know. That's
A question, Captain. Will he be there at the dinner?
Yes, he will. He is one of the officers being deployed to the Liamus Board.
Would it perhaps suit the situation best to either remove beforehand or out him amongst the others?
Mind you, we've no proof.
Well, I believe you are
noble friend here can provide the
Well,
fruit.
we've no proof. Need the information.
With proper digging, I'm sure you can verify. Then, what do you cover?
I think that, given the current weight of everything that relies on our plan this evening, we can let this deceptive dog lie for a little while, but I will very graciously take your information. I was not quite prepared for you to be useful in this manner. Yes, especially you, sir.
What is that supposed to be? Curious.
I don't put a lot of stock in people outside of folk. I'm sure you believe that.
I'll gesture to everyone. None of these folk are Liamites. I held the same view.
Certainly I'm not going to get into some debate with you, sir, but I just wanted to express my gratitude. Perhaps able to shift my opinion ever so slightly.
It was worth. Lord. From Thor, no?
Then he failed in the delivery. How exciting.
Hey, you know, it was a lot of stuff I didn't care about.
Right?
Trying to build bonds of brotherly love.
I can see that is going to be an uphill battle.
My part. All of it.
Well, gentlemen, are we... Is some sort of plan formulated amongst you?
I've got my concerns. If we're to convince a group of officers that are united and relatively stable, that's one thing, but if an undisclosed amount of them are already plotting a coup against you, our efforts might be that.
Percival is...
Is he important? I have no idea who he
He's
is.
small potatoes, I think is the commoner saying.
See,
I can deal with him.
perfect.
I want you all to focus on the more prominent officers, who'll be at the front near the stage. I will leave the particulars up to you. I will have your cart ready at the gates down to West Point, so after the dinner I can scurry you away. I will set you up in their dressing room, and then I will leave you to your plan. Obviously, if you see me at the dinner, you do not know me, and I do not know you.
Now, part of our plan may are you familiar with Thoradin at all?
Yes,
Familiar with the separation of his body?
I had heard rumors.
Yeah, well, the rumors are true. We have 2 of his body pieces.
Quaint.
So that's probably gonna be part of it.
Alright.
Because yeah, it's terrifying. Resembling for the people that we got them from. That's very stuff going on. Although I guess
Sounds effective.
Shevlin didn't have wicked stuff, he was just bad.
Or perhaps the details of her nature.
I mean, I told my dad everything. He probably already knows most of it. Probably doesn't believe most of it. That's good.
Well, gentlemen, I would like to say it's been a pleasure. He would get up and start leading you all.
Yes.
So, you haven't been a noble, I've spoken. Would you have any sway over officers?
Not to the extent that I could countermand orders from someone else. But they would owe a certain amount of deference.
You couldn't necessarily order them around, but they'd have to show you proper respects.
Right.
So, for all intents and purposes, you'd be set into a dressing room. You can actually hear the beginning of the dinner kind of muffled coming through the various hallways and then the door. Oh, excuse me. But you are left there until you are called upon. So whatever discussions or preparations or... So as the Golden Hearts converse, being left in this dressing room, which there's like various like gowns and mirrors and makeup kind of all around you, so it's an odd clash of like these kind of hardened warriors in this almost like dainty little modest space.
War paints. Just me.
Want to describe it to me?
Yes.
Show me.
You're a gnome, right?
They have red. I'll do a red handprint across the top, and then do black line for the eyes. Yeah, not great.
So I'm gonna give you not advantage on intimidation, but you have a +1 on your intimidation.
Point?
No, like with the war paint, you have a +1.
That's specific.
I did ask Thor to bring in the chest from Hawaii as the army.
I will have that part of it.
So as play is, you hear the sound of footsteps approaching the door, and there's a quick little knock. It's like, "All right, gentlemen, you're on next." And then shuffling further down into the hallway. Any final last moment decision?
It'll be something. I need to put on the show.
So as eventually the man returns, open the doors for you, and guides you to the stage, you are stepped out onto, it's almost kind of like an open space amphitheater is kind of the general vibe. There's these curved seating tables, kind of all aimed towards this large stage that you are upon. The roof is kind of open currently, allowing the evening and night sky to kind of descend upon the scenery. There is a absolute plastering of nobles and military officers and wives and various other prominent members of Vilstenian folk. Each table looks like it is just drenched in years of politics and jury conversation and discussions on how or what paint the living room should be, and just nothing that would be all that exciting. Their attention seems to be less on the stage and more on the various conversations happening at each table. Whatever performer just came off or whatever speaker had just left the stage did not leave them super excitable. So the majority of them, probably about half of them, aren't even looking your way as you walk onto stage. But is there any particular way you're making an entrance?
Y'all have any?
And
I do have an idea.
Either a lion's roar or beating drums.
I can do it. If we had collaborated, I can also create a sound of whatever you're doing. As you began your deal, I was going to lower lights and like lower the lights and then have like
If the drums had like a beat, I would like stopping. Yeah,
like the haka.
yeah, sure. Like stomping with the create like a louder effect.
Not coming out yet.
Does Thor have the box with?
And as, with the lowering of the lights, I would bring everything to nothing, black, and it would come back up to like a dim light. But it's minor wonder, 30 feet. So 30 feet. Yeah.
So as this roll of thunder begins to come across the stage, and then the or stepping in time with these beats, the candles on the tables, like just touching the stage, begin to dim and shrink and snuff out as you bring the lights and the chandelier over the stage down to just the smallest bit of light. Thor stepping out, this immense figure, this large Goliath that a lot of Folkish people immediately have a sense of kind of terror and dread towards anyway, holding the, I guess both the leaded chest and the weird mangled leaded chest that you guys put together, correct?
Just the one that's
Okay. Gotcha.
Not
Okay.
holding both.
Okay, yeah. Coming out with the lead lined chest, kind of holding it both hands, I'm assuming, kind of like presenting it almost.
Yeah, or like kind of one arm and banging.
So you have not pulled every eye, but certainly the vast majority now at least are looking up in a mixture of curiosity or just perplexion. Not quite sure why the rather upbeat entertainment has now turned to this weird war drum-esque aesthetic. So you've now gained a bit more attention from majority of the onlookers.
If I noticed that there was a group that wasn't paying attention, create a peal of thunder directly over.
And are you and Clay on the stage, or are you kind of like behind the curtains, like doing shit from the side?
I've at least marked.
I'm giving him the stage. I'm just kind of controlling lights and sound show right now.
It's backstage. Guess I'm up there.
Yes.
Rhodey's my assistant. All right.
It makes Thor look massive, having Clay right next to him.
What do you prepare?
Ladies and gentlemen, folk, honored nobles, great warriors, who are here tonight as a farewell to celebrate your future against those to the south. This is not. He'll clap his hands and out a loud lion's. This is not what your purpose should be. I come to you tonight to tell you of what true evil, true glorious purpose is meant to be. I reveal to you tales of my grandfather, the great Master Plague Depot Senior, the Shevlin's Chosen, and casting producer Lane. They will swing his hands around, trying to do a good performance of fire. Nothing. Nope. 4. The 4.
He burns himself.
You're so focused on the speech, and you are doing really well conveying the message and the words you were looking for, that you aren't really paying attention to your hands. And there's a few moments where like you bump your other hand, you're like, oh, and then like try to get back in the rhythm again, but then like you swing one arm too much and you're like, gotta pause for a moment and then try like do it again. It's not horrible. That's not great.
That's over the ballot.
You would hear a few like kind of muffled bits of like stifled laughter throughout the crowd.
Being this, Thor would then just like go down and bang on the chest again.
All of us faced one common enemy. There were no country that could claim supremacy. There were no groups who held it all. It was but a single, unified belief. We must resist or die. The petty squabbles of lines on maps did nothing to stifle that which you have heard as children's stories, but as my family has known to Horadan. And We'll lift up in minor illusion the eye. But make it look neat. I don't know how you do that. That's slit, and very specifically, try to have it single out people, like catch their eye, so it'll swivel, look at them, and then the chains will flail in their direction.
You would hear a few like gasps and kind of like shudders from the various tables. There's the sound of like a champagne glass like tipping from the table and shattering on the cobblestone beneath. It's clear that some of the like rather intense imagery has like really shaken the vibe of the room right now, and everyone's kind of like trying to catch up with what the fuck's going on.
Know this. Your children's stories were not meant to keep you in line. They were not meant to send you to bed. They were meant to warn you. There is threat out there. Coming for you. And you. My companions and I have traveled across the land. Pursued by evil. Under the watchful gaze of that which would destroy us all. We have fought. Some have died. More will die. If all you can concern yourselves are for petty ideals of whose land is who, think of your children, think of the people. And he'll fling his arm out towards Thor. You think there is not but stories? No. We come to you tonight. A piece of the dark beast himself. And, throw out some fire. Those of you who do not have strong heart, turn away now. Or unleash.
I would do unlock the box, and then I'd probably have like a rag or something in my hand, I'm like touching it while doing this. But I would basically drag it out, and then as I'm dragging it out, I'm gonna try to cast like an illusion of me. Looks like there is image of Gordon as I'm flashing it. Okay.
I try to signal backwards towards Decker, giving like a thunder feel, like a
As you pick up the piece, despite having something in between it, there is that lingering sense of like genuine dread and doom that kind of begin to plague your thoughts. It's not the overwhelming sense that you would have touching it bare, but you still feel that effect, is not to its full power.
Gotcha. Drag it forward, and once I get to, I have everybody, I will just a little bit and hold it up in light or something like that. Say, we present a piece for Odin himself. Witness. Breath.
As you hold it up, the rain begins to descend.
Know that we do not come to you simply as outsiders. Even your own can recognize the threat that this represents. We are not simply a small faction, but a coalition of all kinds. And turning to look at Valor there behind the scenes, trying to give you a signal of, are you ready?
This is your moment.
Well, I'll walk out in full regalia, including that cloak that
Jagged cape.
that Oldrill gave me, and stand next to Thor holding up the arm and say, I stand before you not as the Count of Count, but as a petitioner. I see before me the brave, the honorable of folk. Your duty, not merely to follow orders. Your duty is to the greater lasting good of our kingdom. Is not served the persecution of Leomis. They are not our enemy. They are a distraction at best. Tonight, we go clear the way to Bronze Shard to forge a new link. A link to hold the misguided Empire at bay. But more importantly, to oppose Thoradin and his servant Novin, who is heralding a new great entrance. Captain Oldrill, please come forward.
In the dimness of the room, about 4 tables away from the stage, you would see the calm, kind of expressionless face of Odril lit by like a small candle assembly in the middle of the table. He just glances over at the other people at the table who give him a look, and he just slowly stands up in his seat.
You are the best and the brightest, and so we would not insult you by coming to you without proof of our claims. Your leader, Captain Oldrill, I assume you know not to be a man. Flights of fancy, outpourings of emotion. And so, brave leader that he is, I call him forward to take Thoradin's hand and describe to you what he sees, what he feels, and then let any who doubt do the same.
All eyes kind of turn over to Captain Odril, and he's just staring up at the stage, and for what it's worth, he keeps his mask on fully. There's no slip, there's no sign of worry, he just... and then begins slowly plodding up towards the stage.
I would,
Hold on tight.
I would make my way.
Okay, you're out on stage.
I guess that's the edge of, and still the same effect. I would try to, like, as much as I can, imitate Verdant. I would fight the Toradan piece.
I'm gonna ready protection from good and evil for Captain Odril. For after he touches, in case it's like he's pushed up. I don't know how well it's gonna work.
As he walks up, you see he's wearing like black evening leather gloves, and he starts undoing the strap on the right hand. He starts pulling the fingers off of it, and his eyes are just kind of dead set on the Toradan piece that's being presented. Eventually, stepping to like where the stage lip is, where you're holding the arm down for him. And he looks back over the crowd. He's still stood tall, chest puffed out, his gaze still rather calm. And as he like turns, which allows some of his like the back of him to be facing the people, he would look up at you as he's like raising his hand, like a little last like And he reaches up and grabs it. As he makes contact with it, the theater is silent. Besides the various sounds that might be coming off of the show, no one's murmuring, no one's crying or shouting. It is just blank. And as his hand kind of like cinches and locks, where you're able to see like the muscles kind of exposed past the sleeve of his shirt, like tense, the veins in his fingers kind of popping out a little bit as he is holding the hand of this ancient god, and his eyes that were on you don't shift. And you had not seen any sort of genuine emotion in them up until this point. But as he is holding the arm and holding your gaze, and his like hand begins to like tremble a little bit, the tension in the room building and building, you would see like the edge of his eyebrows kind of dipping, his whole face kind of growing more slack and more like down, before there's this like deep swirl in the back of his eye, and a single tear kind of works out from under his eye and then down his cheek, and he's just...
Speak, Captain. What do you see? What do you feel?
Eventually, he kind of like throws the hand away and he stares down at his hand, and almost like this like disbelief, kind of like turning it over a little bit, turning to the crowd. I have seen true and complete doom. Kind of brushes his hand, looks at it again. These men are not false prophets. What they say does not touch upon the scene that we are headed towards. I would implore any of you to test my word. And he kind of like gestures back towards the arm.
There you have it. If any of you think yourself more brave than your captain, I invite you to step forth and see for yourself. The only condition is that you describe for all of us here what transpires when you do.
Everyone give me performance, and Valorant give me...
Seven, 21, 30, 20.
Valorant, as you call out to the room, Captain Odril slowly replacing his glove, looking a bit perturbed. There is no movement. Nobody stands, nobody shifts, no one picks a piece of food off the plate. It is just still as a graveyard in the current moment. Eventually, Captain Odril, not seeing anybody stand up to offer to do the same, he kind of looks back at you and, not revealing the hand too much, just kind of like meets your gaze and...
When everyone's quiet, I'll step forward and just say, "Officers, speaking to you, I'll keep this brief. I'm the face of your soon-to-be enemy. Should your plans continue as directed. Decker Caspian, I'm captain of the Rangers of Ukin. My father is the alderman of Ukin. Over the course of the past few months, I've had cause to ask myself, what is my purpose? Why am I really here? What am I doing with these people? I ask you to evaluate in these times right now, what is your purpose? Blindly follow the directions you're set towards, or is it possible for you to take new information and guide yourselves towards a greater good? What is your oath? I don't know it. Mine is to my country. I used to think that was greater than one to a queen or king, the individual. But I know now that even that is lacking. as my friend Clay alluded to earlier, we're much more than that. You see here a group of varied individuals, gnome, human, Goliath, noble. We are all working toward one purpose, and that is what we have just shown. We're asking you now, divert your course and work towards the greater good to stop this from happening. Absolutely. And this is all done, and we no longer face this threat. I invite you to test yourselves against our defenses. But now, that is probably not in the greater good of those you love, those you are sworn and oath-bound to protect. That is all.
As the memorable image of all that has occurred is plastered into the minds of the onlookers, Captain O'Drill, as he's finished putting his glove back on, would look over all of you and do a quick and then head back to his table. If you look off to the side of the stage, you would see Neil at the edge of the stage,
Yeah,
I guess that's our cue.
as we close, I would just the bang bang would be me.
So Neil would kind of collect you all, and as you exit this community theater, as soon as you're a few moments away, just about 10 or so paces, you would hear that silence erupt into just multiple layers of conversation. Everyone just starts babbling at each other. It's incredibly difficult to comprehend anything that's being said, but it's clear that quite the impact has been made, for whatever, better or for worse. But Neil would very dutifully start maneuvering you through the streets. It is clear that there's been a predetermined path to the gate that leads down to West Point. As you guys are approaching the gate, which is open, a bunch of the guards are kind of stood there, but they're looking distinctly not at the cart or you. You would see Sierra stood there, and there's about 15 other dwarves stood around her. They are dressed in chainmail and plate mail and kind of half plate and mixtures of armor. They're all that same kind of silvery, reflective human armor versus the dark, thick, pale legion outfits that they used to wear. They're all armored and not armored. They're all armed with various weapons. They look almost kind of excited, kind of energized in the current moment as Sierra's stood around them. But you would get back into your caravan, do your night with Sierra, and the goal would be to send down to West Point unless there are last minute